We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
High school and all James Woods can say is, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy. When a ball turned into a vampire, all James Woods could say was, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy. When he became Peter's best friend, they sat around the house and said, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy. And you know that James Woods writes his lines real well, but everything that he reads becomes real hard to spell. Everyone tries to help him, but the words just won't come out. There's only one thing he can think of, and it's what comes out his mouth. Ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy. When he comes out of his house, the women scream and shout. Ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy. And they know that he's nectar, the best of them all when he says, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy. Reese's Pieces on the floor and watch him come a saying, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy. And you know that James Woods writes his lines real well, but everything that he reads becomes real hard to spell. Everyone tries to help him, but the words just won't come out. There's only one thing he can think of, and it's what comes out his mouth. Ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy. When he comes out of his house, the women scream and shout. Ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy, ooh, a piece of candy. Ooh, a piece of candy.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
So, a creature for my amusement. Prepare for battle.
Fucking thing sucks!
What's going on, y'all? Thursday night here in the Brooklyn Batcave. It's a fun day. Hopefully everyone out there had their fill. I don't know, there's some sort of bugaboo going around. I didn't feel too well earlier today, but as the day progresses and I drink this moonshine that's in this Gatorade bottle, shh, don't tell Johnny Law. So I got to be on Comrade Misty's radio show on TNT Radio today. That was awesome. We had a great time. Check out her show. It's 3 to 6 Eastern time, Monday through Friday. And she really found her niche, because that lady can talk. She can do it. I mean, she was made for radio. So, and she seems to enjoy it. So I'm glad she's having a good time. What's going on, everybody? Jimmy and Dolores in the chat. Ed Heller, what is going on? I can handle the regular Bulla, but I'm not certain if I can handle the extra. I'll watch and chance it. Well, just take some antacids, Ed. You should be fine. That's usually how things work. When in doubt, just pop a Tums. We got a good show tonight. It is an independent news network hoedown with a good friend of mine and the founder of Independent News Network, Indie Left. What's going on, brother? You are live. How are you?
Oh my goodness, Warren. Extra booyah. I'm so excited to finally be on the show. I'm not gonna Jimmy Dore you and really give you a hard time to say we've been doing a network now for 5, almost 6 months now. Can you believe that? Indie News Network is 5 months old as of, I think, April 6th or so. So again, I'm just excited to be here. It's a hilarious show. I've seen everybody on here. It's great. So thank you for inviting me on, and I'm excited to shoot the shit with you and to cut loose a little.
Well, I know you're a proud papa, and you got your familial duties. So a lot of times you can't do the earlier hours for shows like this. But tonight, the boss lady is taking care of the kids, so you can be downstairs and play with us. I'm always glad whenever kids have a proper upbringing like that. So you seem like you're a pretty good pop.
Yeah, we got the night off from bed and bath time. That's normally part of our routine, and I certainly enjoy it. And it doesn't last long, and every parent will tell you, it feels like you blink and it's gone. So I certainly try to soak it in as much as I can, even though they drive me crazy most days.
That's right, man. Those kids grow up quick, dude. Before you know it, man, they're in college and they're calling you up and asking for money, and telling you what a disappointment you are, and what? Oh, sorry, I was channeling something else. I don't have any kids, but I know kids, and they would probably say that to me if we were related. So, but that's neither here nor there. Pity party, table for one. Have you? I don't know where I was going with it. But no, I'm glad you're here. And yeah, it's I've had some really good guests on here, and we finally get to get you on here. And yeah, you said INN's about 5 months old. It's starting to talk now, right? And about the age youngins start to talk, or what is that like later? I don't know.
It's making a few noises so far. It's starting to maybe even learn some sign language. That was about the time that about 9 months. I started to get a couple like the pointing at the mouth for eat, and it was like, oh my god, you want to eat? Oh yeah, here, please. You're telling me what you want. Thank you.
I do that when I go to restaurants, and they say, no, you can just tell us what you want, dude. You can speak. I'm like, no, gimme, because I like to pretend like I'm a caveman. So yeah, we're broadcasting on several channels tonight, by the way, and this is the first night we're on Rockfin, thanks to you. You just got on Rockfin, right? And that's pretty cool, man.
Did.
How do you feel?
I did. I'm more than excited and geeked about Rockfin. It's a platform that I've been a believer in and a watcher of, and an investor in their crypto Ray tokens, to be honest, even before I was a creator on the platform, because I was watching all of my favorite creators on this platform. And now Tara Reid from INN also got accepted for a channel. Of course, we know that she got fired by when RT, or she lost her job when RT America closed, and RT shut down operations in the United States earlier in March. And so Rockfin, somebody suggested her for a channel, and she suggested, well, why don't you have Indy on there? And they said, well, doesn't Indy just share links? And as it turns out, no, I don't. Now we do shows, and we founded a network, and we've got a whole bunch of shows we can put on there, live streams, exclusive content, all kinds of stuff. And I'm just excited to be on Rockfin. I'm excited to bring Extra Booyah to Rockfin, and we're going to be bringing other smaller independent shows through our channel and co-streaming that. We've already spoken to some other channels about making that happen. And of course, some of our INN family members, of course, we're gonna make this available to them as much as possible as well. You're gonna see some new shows out of Indie Left. We've also got INN News that debuted last night. So lots of things happening on. It's really cool. It's an exciting time to be.
You had
around.
Reef and Colin on the maiden voyage last night. They did a really good job, and I think that's going to take off. The kids seem to like it, and if the kids like it, then it's a hit. So
hello, happy children. That's right.
Right, we got it's all about making the kids happy, because apparently they're the only ones with like spending money these days. I could be wrong. Probably they don't have that, but it's wishful thinking. But you mentioned
they control the remote in my house. I can tell you for sure.
Oh, really? Okay. Before we get into your Marvel origin story, what do the kids watch?
Oh boy, they're watching these silly family kind of somewhat scripted, but the whole family, it's the kids and the parents, and they do silly kinds of stuff, and it's kind of sitcom-y, but not really, because it's scripted reality. And sometimes these kids promote products, and then they also watch. My son's watching The Amazing Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends on Disney Plus, and
Nice.
they're YouTube kids, and I'll tell you, they figured out the remote, and you just leave them and they go, and you got to watch what they're watching, of course. And I watch the history, and I'm like, okay, hey, you were watching that teenage stuff, and they actually like the Descendants and all the Disney like teenage movies, even though they're really young. They don't understand half the stuff, but they like the songs and the dancing, and it's kind of it's sweet for them,
Kids these days, they're a lot more. They seem to pick up on things a lot quicker. Maybe that has to do with the technology, like tablets and stuff like that. They're visually stimulated early and they can touch the screen and make stuff happen. And back in our day, it was just Pong and blocks with letters on it. So not very. It was interactive,
right?
But it
not very.
Cool. It was
yeah,
cool.
We had televisions and
Intel
2600s and Commodore 64s and pet whatever, and
I had a Commodore
TRS 80s and
TRS 80s,
VIC 20s. There you go.
Radio Shack had the Tandy, had those Tandy computers. Remember
That's
those?
right.
A buddy of mine had one of those. Yeah, it was all.
All the schools had the Tandys.
It was that green.
Right.
It was like the green. It was black screen with the green text, kind of like the old Apple IIes. But we'll get into that stuff. We're
old CRT.
Hey, Reefer's here. What's up, buddy? So we'll get into all that good stuff later. But first off, tonight we're talking about news aggregation, and people are like, well, is that like do you water news? That's news. I don't even know what that's called.
Me neither. I don't know what you call that.
My brain is a little cheese tonight, so I apologize. I'm a little slow on the uptake, more so than usual. But news aggregation is basically taking stories by reporters and journalists and basically spreading the Johnny Appleseeds, right? A lot of times they don't get a lot of exposure because they're not like the mainstream media does, because mainstream media seems to dominate the airwaves and cable and all that. So these smaller but really good journalists need the seed needs to sprout and it needs to poke out of the ground, and you're kind of like the farmer that does that. Why don't you tell people what you do as far as that's concerned?
Ooh. So it's really funny. All I wanted to do was share a few links on Twitter. That's how this started. Was holy crap, there's all this amazing independent content out there. There's really no central place to find it all. You really have to go digging. All right. And in order to aggregate it, all these different websites, they actually have something called an RSS feed that you can subscribe to. And it's a link that you can plug into another website, which is what I figured out how to do. And voila, we have a central hub website to find all the independent content that you're looking to find. And that's really what it started with. And then it's like, okay, well, let's see, how can we incorporate YouTube videos into this too and showcase the independent streamers and content creators that are creating on YouTube? How do we integrate with podcasts? Well, it turns out podcasts also work on RSS feeds. So we can integrate podcasts into this. And it just continued to evolve and snowball. And so that was about 2 years ago. I built out what was then Progressive News Daily. And after 6 months, I realized that progressive was kind of a dead term, and I did not want to be identified with people who were starting to identify as progressives, meaning Nancy Pelosi and Jim Clyburn, who said, if that I'm the most progressive Democratic senator, Democratic representative in the House. Okay. Well, if that's the case, then that's not me. So we rebranded after 6 months to Independent Left News and Independent Left Media. We LLC'd in December of 2020, and it's been a wild ride. We've just continued to add platforms, and we were publishing out twice a day, and then we added a Substack, and oh my goodness, we'll get into the rest of it. But that it really just started that I just wanted to share some links and figure out how to centralize news articles and videos from independent platforms. And I'm embarrassed to say which ones it was in the beginning, because we felt very differently about them at that time. Meaning Kyle Kalinske, TYT, Nomiki Konst, a few others. But Mike Figure, the Humanist Report, they were part of the foundation and what I started with to figure out how to do this. And then I discovered Richard Medhurst, and I got more into listening to Lee Camp and the MCSC network, Fiorella, the Convo Couch, and Misty, and all of these other content creators. And I realized that was really kind of pseudo corporate news, and they weren't really covering the issues of the left, quote unquote, or the issues of the truly uncorrupted, and that electoral politics, it was a rigged game, and they're focusing on issues that really we have no control over in the end. And I'd rather help the person next to me. And that's what we've kind of, shout out to RBN for always working mutual aid and and Rome, everybody out there for really focusing on what we can actually do to make a difference today. That's really where it's kind of evolved. So, wow. I'll shut up and let you ask a question because I tend to ramble and rant and take over.
No, you're great, man. You're doing a great job. That's why I got this show. I don't want to talk that much. So I like it when other people talk. But everything you said is amazing, and I see it every day. I'm mostly on Twitter. I used to be on Facebook a whole hell of a lot, and then probably about a few years ago, I started being more on Twitter, and now I'm primarily on there. And that's every day. That's all I see is you're sharing some journalist or some story or some video, and it's pretty impressive, and you've got a pretty good rep too. A lot of people, they know you, and they know what you do, and they appreciate what you do too. And
well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate what they all do. I got to say, what you do, and turning on a microphone and turning on a camera, because I don't even turn on a camera. I figured out this rigged setup, but putting yourself out there and putting your name out there and going live, it's taking risks. I give you a lot of credit. A lot of people are afraid to do that. Let's just put it that way. So when you are uncorrupted and you are giving speaking your truth, and you are coming from a perspective that you're not seeing anywhere on the corporate owned, corporate controlled, homogenized news channels, and not just news channels, but all channels, all of the networks, right down to Amazon, Apple, Hulu, all these streaming platforms, they're all owned by 15 companies effectively. Yeah. And we know who those companies are, and I'm looking for the content that's not on any of those platforms. I'm trying to avoid those primarily, as well as things like the Associated Press. I got to be honest, it's incredibly mainstream, and it's always on the whatever the narrative of the day is. They tend to try to set it. That's the Associated Press and Reuters. Unless it's a really straight news article, I tend to not to not share those. I'm looking for the outlets like the Left Voice and a lot of the Substackers who I've been promoting for 2 years, like Popular Information. And when Glenn Greenwald went there, was a supporter of his early on, and Matt Taibbi when they moved over. And now we figured out a tool for that as content creators. So, for example, we have a Substack for Indie News Network. We publish a Substack to let everyone on our mailing list, and it's a great way for streamers to build a mailing list and to let their audience know when they're going live and get around the algorithm suppression and the notification messes, because it notifies you across 6 devices, and sometimes it's not on the device in your hand. There is so the Substack is a good way to email everybody. Plus, it's a website that that remains static, and you can embed the stream. So right now, if you go to Substack, indienewsnetwork.substack.com, you can actually watch this YouTube stream embedded live on there. We've also figured out a way to multi-stream and do all kinds of cool stuff. And what this has done is introduced me to people and all kinds of experiences that I never would have dreamed of having already. And it's still just the beginning, who I've met and what I've learned and who I've gotten to speak with. It's just remarkable.
Yeah, there's a lot of. It seems like you meet more and more people in this space. I was talking when I was on Misty's show today. We were talking about the battles that we have to face as far as like you have the elites, and then you have their mouthpieces, the mainstream media, and then you have the toadies that support these politicians and can just think they hung the moon, and so we're having to deal with them on a daily basis, through the platforms and on social media as well. But there's also like, there's internal strife amongst the family members too. We don't all agree on everything, but at least we try to look at the goal as we're trying to inform the masses and get the truth out there, and not try to spin it for some sort of hidden agenda. And I was telling her today, I said, back in the days, I was a big, Bill Clinton stan. I'm very ashamed to say that now, but I've managed to, through independent media and through independent sources and journalists, that I've managed to climb out of the bubble. And I'm always learning something every day, it seems like, and it always seems like there's somebody new that pops up. Like you said, people doing shows, like this. This show is more of like an entertainment show, but it's like but it features people who are doing good works out there. So, and I feel like if you want to trust a news source, it's always great if you know a little bit more about them. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you meet somebody on the street and they're friendly, but you don't know if you trust them or not. But then you go to their house or something, you break bread, and they tell you stories about their lives and stuff like that. Then you tend to feel a little more comfortable with them, and a little more trust is built. And so it's good to see more people in there. I should probably be doing like you do and just have a graphic up instead of seeing my ugly mug. I'll tell you, from a technical standpoint, it'd be a hell of a lot easier than trying to set up this camera and lights and all this bullshit. So, there maybe in the future it'll just be like a still picture of me with like stock photo, or maybe like those, like in the old yearbooks where it was just like a cartoon picture, kind of like a blank thing, and it says photo not available. That'd be I was thinking about doing that.
Right? Well, the thing with the question mark, hilarious. So, yeah. Well, again, thanks to Reef for hooking this thing up. It's great. I'm glad to not have to show my face at times. At times I wish that I really could or did, or I'm going to hopefully at some point. But I've got a full-time job and a career and a family to take care of, so I have to be careful about and I'm in sales. I will tell you that so I don't want to piss off a client or lose a customer or hurt the company I work for with them finding out what I do. So I stay behind this, and I want it to be anonymous. I just wanted to amplify everybody else. That was the whole idea, is to showcase everybody else's work. And even in the shows that I do and the interview shows that I do, it's about showcasing writers and journalists and about showcasing content creators and streamers in the interview show. So, there are so many that are coming up, and I wanted to mention Discord, because Discord was really instrumental in the foundation and how this thing has grown, as well as how Indie Left kind of came, independent. The Indie News Network came together. Is that Discord? I was able to use the same type of technology, the RSS feed technology, to set up effectively like a little bit of a newsroom where I had channels that are feeding, and it exists right now. You can go to independentleft.gg and join Discord for free and join this whole thing. And what it does is, whenever somebody tweets or writes an article or posts to their YouTube channel or does a podcast, it automatically posts a link to that on their channel dedicated to their content in this Discord. And there's over 100 channels in the Discord. Now, I tell everybody when they join to mute the server, because otherwise the notifications will make you nuts. But when you want to, you can go in there and say, hey, what are the Bank Sisters up to, for example? And I can scroll down, I can go to their channel and see everything that the Bank Sisters are up to. It's really cool. So not only that, there's also a bot that you can generate. And one of the people that was in Discord built a bot that looked for certain keywords in YouTube streams automatically. So what they were searching for was the name Assange. Mm-hmm. And anybody that was doing videos that titled Assange in the title, it would show up in this feed. Hey, this is somebody who's doing a video about Assange. And you could, and I would look at it. And that was how I found some of these newer, smaller content creators that we kind of put together and came together to form a network, is we were all kind of focused on the same kind of content, but still with unique perspectives and types of shows and the platforms that we were working on, and incredibly diverse backgrounds, and just literally a rainbow coalition of people that ended up coming together. And yeah, about 6 months ago, I started to reach out to some of the people that I showcased and that I was including, and that I knew weren't really getting the kind of sunshine that they really deserve, because they were smaller and just starting their channels, and it's hard to break through today. So together as a unit, we are stronger. We also maintain our small individual channels ourselves and grow them, and share audiences and be guests on each other's shows and share each other's stream links when we're going live, and help with technical stuff between each other and co-stream. I mean, there's so many benefits to what's happening here. And again, the collaboration, the support from each other, the mutual aid that I've seen has just been phenomenal in just 6 months, and I can't wait to see where it's going.
Well, you got and besides the news aggregation that you do, you kind of do I don't know if it's a best of, but you kind of you have a show on Sunday nights. How did we miss that? You do it with Reef Breland, and I
do.
That was that's a fantastic show that you do, because it's like you do showcase a lot of really good journalists that are just not getting the as you say, the sunshine that they deserve to to get out there. Because like people, like one of my favorites is Caitlin Johnstone. I think she's just fantastic. But but I'm all up in these spaces. I know who she is. I talk to somebody who's not on social media, or rarely is, and I ask them if they know who that is. They say no, but they'll tell you who Rachel Maddow is or something like that. So, it's shows like that. I try to point people towards like that show, so that people can see who real journalists are that are doing these stories that no one sees. Because you probably know people like that too, right? That are kind of outside of all of this, and who that you say, oh, hey, have you heard of so and so, or did you know about this story, right? And probably there's a few people that that would say, no, I didn't know that, right?
Actually, it's almost everybody I know. It's what we call normies. It's everybody
normies,
else.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's not enough of us, and there's too many of them that are plugged into all of these corporate. I don't know what you call them. Their energy sucks, and they're narrative managers, and we're distracted with a slap and an award show this week, and next week it's the next big thing, or for who's doing what, and it's squirrel. We're looking over here, and nobody's ever really taken a look back at the big picture. Our friend Steve Poikinen over at Slow News Day is phenomenal at doing that, and congrats to he and Pasta on the new morning show out of Vegas. We love what they're doing as well. But yeah, so again, thank you on the kudos on the show. It was something that, so to back up a second, so last April I started a Substack, and I was trying to figure out kind of what do I do with Substack to make it different, because what I was doing with the Substack was taking a top 5 articles and videos and sharing it in the Substack that were on the website, which have 100 articles and 75 videos. It's tons of stuff to scroll through and move around. So I was just trying to grab the best of the best and put it kind of on a Substack. And I wouldn't even call it the best of the best. It's just some of the things that I think people would like to see, that are part of the story of the day, with a couple of stories mixed in that I don't think people would see. And then what I really decided to do with the Substack was to showcase the video content first, because the website really focuses more on the article content, really give definition between the two. Plus, the Substack also became a live stream notification channel engine type of thing, as well as we're now doing the podcast for Friends of Indie Left is actually going out through the Substack. So, Substack keeps expanding their capabilities so that now you can upload a podcast and distribute that directly through the Substack platform. So we're doing all of that through Substack. It's pretty wild.
So like,
And so that evolved into taking the Substack and putting it into a show, like the best of the Substack throughout the week.
right.
One article per day, something like that. Throwing that into a show.
Yeah, and you have a plethora of stories on there, and it's a good balance too. You have like a lot of news stories, and then at the end, Reef has the boat smashing into other boats, so you get some fun treat at the end of your meal. You know what I mean? You get a nice dessert after that. I think it's a good mix like that. So have you gotten a lot of good feedback about that show or have normies that have they watched your show and commented on it?
A couple of them actually. They have listened to the podcast more, which is pretty interesting. The thing that I started doing a few months ago was started doing clips. And you started actually doing that. Thank you so much for getting us started on doing clips, and then teaching me how to use the software to do the clips myself when I didn't have somebody else to help me do them. And then shout out to the Big Mad Crab for helping with thumbnails and trailers and intros and graphics to make the video clips even nicer. And then we're publishing the clips. Now, what we're doing with the Rockfin channel is that we're going to put the video clip segments from How Did We Miss That individually on Rockfin for 24 hours as premium to premium subscribers only. And then we'll make all the content available to everyone, both on Rockfin and everywhere else. But just to give people an incentive to go to to sign up for Rockfin Premium, which is just $10 a month. I mean, to me, and I know for some people they can't afford it, and I totally get that. And a lot of the content is free, and we're going to make that content free just after a day. It's just we try to do something for the people who do try to support us. But for $10, $9.99 a month, you actually get the entire platform of content, premium streamers. So you don't have to subscribe to each one of the streamers. It's kind of the solution. Now the problem is that it's one platform and they only have limited content. If you don't want to watch political or MMA content or the things that are on Rockfin, you're going to have to subscribe to another premium service. But at least you're getting a ton of different content from a huge variety of content creators, and all for one. Again, a premium price gets you the premium content. You could sign up for free and you get tons of content for free, and the premium stuff. Each content creator decides how much they're going to make premium and for how long. They can make anything for free at any point. It's a lot of flexibility. They've really figured it out, I think, in a lot of ways. Their technology needs to come up a little bit. Look, YouTube is owned by one of the biggest companies in the world, so they have a little bit of a advantage when it comes to developing new technology and functionality for viewers and for content creators alike. But I think Rockfin's done a pretty good job in where they've been for the last few years. And again, I've been a believer in the platform since I was a listener and a viewer, and now I'm honored and proud that I got a channel after this amount of time for Indie Left, and to showcase all of these. Again, this is not about me. This is about showcasing all of the independent content creators in our space that are doing the work every day and that are putting in the time and helping to amplify their voice and working with the established people to a point too. Again, I'm not established. I'm going to get in trouble for saying that, I'm sure, but there are some of the larger channels, we'll call it, that do some good work still, that we don't want to completely cancel out, because we certainly don't want to lose them to another side or to have them develop their own kind of ecosystem bubble. And you don't want to be in your own bubble either. So you at least want to listen, at least want to engage. You may disagree, but my thing is I got to keep my ears and eyes open. So and see who's doing what, because I'm always paying attention. Shout out to Nico House for all he's done on Rockfin and getting people onto Rockfin from early on. He's always seems to be pushing the envelope when it comes to crypto, when it comes to new platforms, when it comes to technology, and when it comes to finding new and up and coming and unheard of content creators. You know, in a lot of ways, MCSE provided a good foundation of a model for how we wanted to operate INN, and INN really operates as a decentralized type of org where everybody has access to everything. Really, Warren. I mean, you can attest to the fact that you I've hidden nothing or kept no password from anyone. Basically, everybody can post to anywhere and do anything that they want with any of the channels, whether that's Substack or YouTube or Twitch, and we can co-stream. And I encourage everybody to do that. And that's what we built this for, was for everybody. And that's what gets me so geeked when I start looking at this stuff in the morning and who's going to go live on the network today, and when we're talking amongst all the network members and seeing the back and forth between all of them and people who didn't know each other before we put all this together, and now they're becoming friends and helping other people, and that's where I see is the mutual aid, and then doing the marathon streams like the student debt boycott marathon that Lucy from Blue Moon Red Wine on our channel did, and we'll get to all the INN contributors and some of the people who've come on recently, and we've already added to members, and some members have already left, and we're still figuring out who we are and what we want to be. It's still early.
Well,
but you're a big part of it, Warren.
Oh, well, thanks. I have put on weight, so but I tell you, Rockfin though, YouTube has really been doing the work for them. Since a lot of people go to Rockfin because of the censorship that's going on YouTube.
Yep.
Like so many people that we know were getting strikes here, especially like it kind of started when Trump became president, but then when COVID hit, then that's when it started to snowball, and now it's continuing with the Russia-Ukraine thing, and people are just, you're just seeing more and more people like, I want to get on Rockfin, or Odyssey, or even like Rumble, platforms like that, because YouTube is just pushing away. The YouTube just they don't want our kind, quote unquote, our kind to spread truth on there. They want, kitten and puppy videos, they want like movie reviews and stuff like that. The real safe stuff. You can't have this controversial truth. So Rockfin says, sure,
right,
come on.
It's not friendly to advertisers, and Rockfin is an ad-free platform, so It makes sense why Rockfin wouldn't care necessarily about offending an advertiser when they're not catering to them. They're catering to the viewers, and they're catering to the content creators, because they also have, and they again, get technical, they pay in their own crypto token, the Ray token. And so everyone has an incentive in growing the platform and increasing the number of views to the platform, because that increases the value of the Ray token, which everybody gets paid in, and everybody's value for what they get paid in increases. So it's a pretty decent setup for creators. Now, there are some technical hurdles to getting paid out, and that's something I'm actually talking to Rockfin, and they're aware of what's going on with that, and they're working on that. I know there's a solution they're trying to fix right now.
I've noticed that
it's been a blast.
Yeah, they've really stepped up. I know initially, like, their chat features, especially like on mobile devices, was kind of horrendous, but I've noticed recently that they've stepped up to address those situations like that, because they know people are coming over, and it's like you said, it's that's one of the reasons on YouTube is they want content that is friendly towards sponsors and whatnot, but it's also more easily controlled by those who don't want certain information out there too. Whereas Rockfin says, no, we're blockchain. Come on, when we're all about the free speech. So you're seeing a tide turn. It's just it's kind of baby steps the way they're doing it. Eventually it's going to be easier for folks to get on there, and I understand why it's difficult to get on there at first for a lot of like the smaller channels to get on there. So, but I think eventually, as the demand increases, it's gonna happen.
I hope so, because again, kind of the way that it works is, and this again gets on the technical side, but apparently for every video that gets uploaded to the platform or every stream, they burn a token of this crypto stuff, and there's only a finite amount. So, what's going to happen when they run out? I don't know. Is the thing going to shut down? I don't know. Who knows? They're going to do a new issuing. I'm guessing they'll figure it out. They got some pretty smart people there. Again, I'm confident that they're going to work it out and figure out how to get everybody paid and continue to keep this platform rolling for the content creators, hopefully without having to take on advertisers, without having to take on large billionaire type investors. That's the other thing that we're trying to avoid is is controlled by one of the big networks or one of the oligarchs out there that's trying to control narratives.
Right. That's exactly that, and that's the big thing we're trying to avoid. Is it's not necessarily the government, although the government does what it can to try and squash information like that. But it's these oligarchs, these billionaires that have skin in the game and would tend to lose a lot if certain information about them and their buddies got out there. So. But as far as like
and shout out to Oz also, Oz in the chat. He's all Roar Media also on Rockfin and a pioneer and doing Saturday night shows and helping out other content creators. Another one of the great independent voices out there in the background, helping produce, helping to train and teach and bring more people to independent media, because we're growing in that way. There are more content creators and there are more people waking up, and it is kind of slow because the algorithm suppression is what's going on, which is why we're again heading to Rockfin, and we've already seen it in channel growth in the first week. The difference in what's happened here versus our YouTube channel, for example. And of course, you have a much more engaged, targeted platform on Rockfin. But even when I signed up on Rumble, it didn't have this kind of growth in a week. So you can see something is happening with Rockfin for sure. That's very positive.
So let's talk about Independent News Network. So like you said, it's less than half a year in, right? And you managed to get a lot of people together for that. How did what was the inspiration for that? I mean, like how did you figure on getting all these folks together?
So we've been it started out, I think, I will even give a shout out to the US Solutions Summit, which brought a bunch of streamers and content creators and politicians and former educators together to talk about some solutions on how do we fix our broken system in some ways. And we had panels on education, panels on election integrity, and we had a presidential panel. We had Howie Hawkins, and we had Mark Charles, and we had somebody, Christina Tobin from the Free and Equal Elections Foundation, who was the moderator for the independent candidates debate for 2020, which were two of the best debates that I honestly have seen in a long time, where people talked about some of the problems that were actually happening in America and some of the ideas that they had that were going to fix it. And it was so much different from how bad the other side is and never about what they're going to do and why they're going to do it and how they're actually going to execute once they get there. I was a big fan of that. So it started there. And then I saw the formation of these, again, MCSC. And at the time they were Fred Hampton leftists. And I saw the way that they kind of came together and grew as independent creators, with each having their own individuality, but growing together as a family, as a network, supporting each other, focused on mutual aid and focused on talking about why the system is broken and what can we do to fix it, and start asking the hard questions. And I think they've been doing some excellent work at doing that. And then there was something that happened with them back at the end of September, October. They had a whole little thing, and I kind of looked at what happened there, and I said, they're so close, and I think they've kind of rectified that to a point, and they're still doing amazing work. And I love RBN, and they're some of my favorite people in this space and on this planet. And some of the people, again, all of them, for all 7 in the network right now, I just love them as people, every single one. But I saw what happened there, and I said, the one thing that they were missing was that they didn't have their own channels each. So heaven forbid something did happen to the network itself, they had to then start over and building their own channels and their own audiences. And they had scattered audiences elsewhere, but they didn't have their own stream with their own kind of unique brand that they could bring to the network platform. And as someone who has been kind of showcasing independent channels like that, and who are all focused on press freedom, who are all focused on canceling student debt, who are all focused on getting health care for all, and protesting and advocating and being activists for that, and vocal activists, and in the streets and online, everywhere we can possibly be. With our friends and family in local offices, even running for local council, we try to amplify those people and bring a bunch of people together that, again, we're a diverse rainbow coalition, that we're all kind of similar in nature but very different. And so I reached out to about 20 different people, and I said, hey, I had this idea. What do you think? And just about everybody was like, yeah, I kind of like it a lot. And we had a Zoom call together back in mid-October. You were there on that call, and Tara was one of the main people. Tara Reid, shout out to Tara Reid, love you, Tara. It was really cool to see everybody come. Robert Durden and Todd from Be the Change, who I have been watching since he did his first live stream after the March for Medicare for All. He was inspired by all he saw, and just turned on a camera and started streaming. And what a cool guy he is. And I actually did an interview with him on his channel back in August, and then I let him co-stream to my channel back in September. And then in October, I said, why don't you join this group of people that we're bringing together? And this sounds awesome. And again, just to bring people together, because it's tough doing this especially by yourself. It helps to talk to people who are also going through the same type of things, and ask people who have experience with the kind of technology and tools that you may be unfamiliar with. Again, so we started to talk about it, and Reef, shout out to my brother Reef, who my God, I wouldn't be able to do any of this without him. And I'm talking like this is all me, but this is far from all me. There are volunteers behind, that work and support this project also, because they believe in what we're doing here and what the streamers are talking about, and amplifying them. And again, the fact that nobody's making any money here. If any, I'm spending a lot more money than we're ever bringing in of my own money, and I'm happy to do it. Thankfully, I'm in a position where I can do that and support as Patreons as many possible support streamers, and drop super chats where so occasionally, but I tend to do it as monthly subscriptions so that it's more ongoing support than one time. And I'll drop some one-time stuff sometimes, especially if somebody's asking for mutual aid or is trying to do raise money for a trip like Misty was trying to do, like she's doing. And shout out to our girl Misty. And I'm in the cult of Misty. I'm kidding, and I know she hates it when I say that. I just adore her. She's she is giving the way that some of us in this space are, where you just ask her to be there. She's like, if she's not tied up, I'm game. Where do I go? And she shows up and she organizes and she cares and she's focused on one thing, which is press freedom and freeing Julian Assange. And I champion her. I adore her. And I, again, value her friendship and appreciate going on her show and her inviting me to be on her new radio show, just like you. And never expected anybody was going to ask me to do anything other than share some articles. So this has all been pretty wild.
I know it's funny how that works out like that, and shout out to Crab and to our buddy Jimmy Sunderland, who's been helping with graphics too and stuff. So she's
absolutely
from Kerberos, so it's like it seems like, and we help out people in other collaborations as well. And I think this is a very new thing, at least to somebody like me, who's used to working in like some sort of corporate news organization back in the day, and now it's more like you have just it's almost like roving bands of journalists and activists who have kind of coagulated together, basically safety in numbers, so I'm really excited about in INN and all the people that are in it, and the places we could go with it.
Yeah, again, Rob Durden's been on Rockfin for a while, but we've got Bess from Millennial Splaining. She mostly does a podcast from Millennsplain. Okay, we've got Lucy with Blue Moon Red Wine. She's streaming to YouTube and Twitch. I knew her more from Twitch than anywhere else initially. Some content creators are on Instagram from the network more and do more stuff, like Todd right now. He's focusing more on posting stuff on Instagram himself for Be the Change. Angel does a lot of Twitter and just recently started streaming, and Yeti Jesus also just started his own show, The Breadlines, and he's been helping us with social media support. And shout out to the original people that are sharing our everything out there on social every day. Nicole and Darlene, they help Independent Left
Dolores
News. They
too.
Also help News Network. And Dolores, who works with Kerberos, she shares Warren's stuff and everybody else's stuff around. She's Real Progressives. That's another organization we work with. And again, we're all fighting against the corporate machine. So doing it individually, we're all throwing rocks. So maybe if we come together and we use a catapult and a trebuchet, we can actually put a dent in them.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad to see that. And it seems like the numbers grow every day. And you see more and more the mainstream media and their cronies are sweating more over it too. So, which is good. So,
well, you see their views dropping. Look, they made YouTube take out the dislike count because they were getting ratioed so hard on corporate media that it was embarrassing to them, and people weren't watching their videos, and the ones who were downvoting it, sometimes 10-1. I mean, the ratios were just brutal. Yeah. So they then said, look, we're paying you how many millions of dollars, YouTube? We're not paying you to embarrass us. We're paying you to get eyeballs to our videos. So that's why you saw the dislike button disappear, unfortunately. A lot of this stuff is meant to serve the advertisers, and they've turned YouTube into corporate tube, and they've demonetized and stolen from content creators. Yes, I will come right out on your platform, YouTube, and say, you steal from content creators. You have stolen from Graham Elwood. You have stolen from the Convo Couch. You have stolen from Frank Analysis, who is live right now, and shout out to Franco also. Okay, Frank Analysis had just been monetized after the January 6th riots on January 6th, 2021, and right afterwards, with a wave of channels that was demonetized, his was, and all the super chats that he had earned, because he had never been paid out for what he had earned in super chats already, they froze that, never paid it. He has never been remonetized, and it is almost 14 months later, and still he's waiting to get access to that money, and he may never get it. and they've not given him any indication on if he will ever be remonetized. But it doesn't seem like it. But thankfully, he's built out his own platforms and source of the ability to do this and make this his career. With thanks to the likes of Rockfin and MCSC being part of a network.
Yeah, and that's another thing that's driving people to Rockfin is they're getting screwed out of a living. You know, you hear a lot of people say, "Oh, well, they're just grifting. They're trying to make money off this." It's like there's a difference between like trying to profit off of someone's ignorance and then just trying to, you know, pay your bills, right? I totally get that. You know, some people who can't be monetized, they have an outside job that they do in order to to make ends meet, and so they can continue to, you know, create content and share information with people. So, you know, I'm starting to see it. I'm starting to see it turn more towards Rockfin. I would say probably with, like, what is this? It's almost April tomorrow. Like this time next year, you're going to see a hell of a lot more people on Rockfin and a hell of a lot less of those people on YouTube.
And Rumble too. You know, I don't want to ignore Rumble because I will say that Rumble, when Jimmy Dore goes live, when Jackson Hinkle goes live, there's more people watching live on Rumble than there are on Rockfin for those few channels that do stream live to Rumble as well. So there's a large audience on Rumble, and Rumble is not all right-wing content. There's like puppies and all kinds of other stuff as well. And you know what? A platform can't be right-wing. It's only the content creators who are on it. So if you're not posting on it and you feel like it is right-wing, then it's on you to get on there and balance it out with content that you feel people should be seeing against what you would feel is, again, not as spreading whatever you want to call it, or talking from perspectives that we disagree with. Let's just put it that way.
And the good thing about
discriminatory, whatever.
The good thing about Rumble too is for a while there, if people wanted to stream on there, I think it was like $25 a month, and now it's like $10 a month. But it seems like they're getting more and more people on there, and eventually it's going to be like technically like YouTube, where you could stream for free. And as soon as that happens, you're going to see an explosion of people on there. I'm pretty sure. You know, you're starting to see a lot more people. Yeah, you're starting to see a lot more on Odyssey too. You know, as they've made it simpler on Odyssey, thank goodness, because originally it was a little bit of a technical jungle that you had to you know, go through to get live on there. But you know, it seems to be easier, and that's the thing. The easier it is for people to get on to live stream, the more voices are going to be shouting out into the ether. You know, and that's what we need. All right,
look, we're streaming this live to 3 Odyssey channels. We're streaming this live to, I think, 3 YouTube channels. That's the other thing that we've brought to the content creators is diversity across platforms, so that somebody who was not on Rockfin, for example, now has a voice and gets exposed to that platform, and the audience on that platform gets exposure, and now you're getting new fans and new people listening to your ideas and your voice, which is why we did this in the first place. And we're having a blast doing it, and we're having fun, we're helping people, we're learning, and we're fighting the machine all at the same time. It's just exhausting. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Any good thing starts off with a lot of hard work, you know, and that's what people are putting into it. But let's shift gears here. As we get into the 9 o'clock hour.
I like
here.
brain cleanse.
We unpacked a whole shitload of stuff there. Some of it kind of people knew about, but some things that people didn't know about. So appreciate the education that you're providing. You're very knowledgeable with a lot of this technical stuff. You've helped me out with a whole heck of a lot of the stuff. You and Reef And I appreciate y'all for that. That's made my job a lot easier too, and a lot more fun too. Especially using the technology and all the fun little toys and fun stuff you can do with it. And we're going to do more with this show as time progresses. Especially like I like using StreamYard. I think that's a particularly cool online platform to use, or software to use. It's very easy to use, and I don't know, it makes me kind of lazy, to be honest with you. If I was using it fully,
you don't have to be like a producer, like you don't have to learn, and I know that they do classes for like churches and businesses and all kinds of different applications besides live streaming, which is the only way that we know it.
Well, my buddy,
StreamYard's cool.
Now, my buddy Rob was on last week, and he primarily uses Zoom for like he teaches at a college in North Dakota, physics lab and stuff like that. So a lot of times he has to get on Zoom. I said, "Well, I'm going to send you a link to StreamYard," and he was like, "Well, what's this? What is this delicious little trinket you're dangling in front of me?" And I showed it to him, and he was like, "Oh wow, this is really cool." And it's great if you're on a budget too. Like me, it's like I use StreamYard. I don't use it to its fullest, but I use it for the features that I like through the other technology, OBS Studio, and I think it's fantastic. And when I had I think I had Oz and Sleepy Josh on, we were talking about the different technologies that are available, and it's it seems to, and there's others out there too. These are just a few. It's just the tip of the iceberg. So the more people learn about it.
We're live on Telegram, and actually, it's really funny, Warren, that you say something like that, because one of the ideas and one of the things that I've been thinking about, batting around and trying to figure out the time to do is I'd like to do a show about platforms and doing kind of like walkthroughs on how do I go live through Telegram and kind of take you behind the curtain of what setting that thing up looks like, and what the logistics of that actually are, on a day-to-day basis, not just as a one-off on a video, but putting a process in place so that if you're somebody who's doing this on a regular basis, it's almost like a checklist in a way, and walking you through all those steps so that it's easier by seeing somebody else do it first. And that's one of the ways that I learned very well was by watching videos and watching other people do stuff. So that's an idea that I had, was doing it live and maybe with some of the technical people. Oz in the chat has also thinks that this is a good idea. I've got ideas for all kinds of new shows. There's one of the other INN content members also came to me the other day and said he's thinking about starting a show and would I like to co-host with him, and I said absolutely, man. That sounds amazing. So I got to figure out how to fit it all in. That's going to be the key. How do I amplify everybody? And it's relying on more people, getting more help. And shout out to Vegan Succubus, and again, Big Mad Crab and Reef and everybody who's helping and pitching in to make all of this happen and make Indie Left and INN posting all day long. And shout out to the Resident Skeptic, by the way, who's out on Twitter right now sharing links on behalf of INN and Indie Left and on themselves, just to get more people out to the stream and looking. So really cool stuff happening, I'll tell you. The collaboration and the unity and the fun that we're all having and friendship that's being developed, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's the big thing too. Is the friendships. Like, there's a lot of people who like you have your technical types, and then you have your journalist types, and then you have different specialties, and we're all kind of getting together and kind of sharing sharing knowledge with one another. And I think it's great. What's up, gamer? Good to see you, buddy. So one thing before we get to the fun stuff, you got a fun show that you do besides that. It's an interview show, right? It's Friends of Indie Left.
It is.
It is. How are you enjoying that?
It's really different for me, but I have some people. It started out again as I wanted to interview Robbie Yeager. As a journalist, I was intrigued by how he does what he does. He is also a father and works full time, and he's been reporting on the Colonial Pipeline leak for a while, and the Colonial Pipeline Company, and how they're trying to avoid any kind of accountability. He also reports on dirty money. He's kind of taught me about, showed me to Sludge and the guys that work over there, and they do amazing work at finding the money also. And said, there's a thing here where a lot of people don't know the backstories of the people that they watch every day. They're listening to them, and they get a feel for their personalities, but how did they get started? What were their kind of origin stories, and who are they watching, and what are they doing? Just a way for me to kind of cut loose and ask them questions, so that I don't get a chance to do that on my show. I'm mostly focused on writers, so this is more focusing on the streamers or people that you don't see or talk to very often. And I hope to get some writers and some some of the journalists in here that do written journalism and Substackers for sure. But so far we've interviewed Savvy Sabs and Ron Placone and Afeni and the Bank Sisters, and the last one was Kit Cabello. Our next one's going to be Misty. After that, we've got our next one booked already, and I'm excited about that one. And I kind of wait until this one, we finish with the current lineup, whoever's up, and then I'll let you know who that is. I haven't even booked it that far in advance before, but I'm really excited for that one too.
And that's a wide lane too. I think, like I said, that's why I do this show, is so people can get to know these folks, that they don't seem one dimensional. Like you're not just a journalist, you're not just an activist, that kind of thing. You're not just a comedian or something, whatever. You could talk about all kinds of different things. And I tell people that the inspiration for the show, as far as like the way it's done, as far as like the conversation is concerned, I like the way Joe Rogan does it. He doesn't do like interviews. He doesn't have a set list of questions. I'm pretty sure he figures in his mind what he's going to talk about with these folks, but he doesn't have like you would in a traditional interview, because those have their place. I think traditional interviews, especially if you're talking about specific subjects, like tonight we're talking about news aggregation, but we're also going to be talking about some other stuff, because we want people to learn more about you, and besides what you do with news aggregation, and you do writing too, right? You've started to write on the Substack, right?
I have. Now, Indie News Network has a Substack. I also have one, but I've even co-written an article with Indie News Network member, The Dissident, and we wrote an article about some of the narrative management and some of the misinformation that's happening about Ukraine and Bellingcat. And that's, again, I just got inspired. I wrote a piece about how RT America and Redacted Tonight specifically was taken down as a show, and how much I really enjoyed that, and was one of the first shows that we amplified and showcased as well. And Lee Camp is a friend of Indie Left News, of Indie News Network. Horrible to see what happened to him. Glad to see that he's been out there back on his feet, and he's an absolute beast when it comes to writing and publishing and making videos and doing interviews. And in a lot of ways, he's a template for how I've kind of operated and built this. But again, all that I'm doing is in service of sharing other people's content. But in the same vein, he's just hilarious. He's funny. He also does the stand-up thing, and again, supporter of free speech, and built out an independent media platform himself. So I give him credit for that, to recognize that we need to break out of the corporate ecosystems and try to build one.
Well, the good thing about when you're sharing news stories like that, you kind of tend to be inspired by the good writing that you're sharing too. I always tell people, just write. Like Substack is a great springboard for people if you just want to just get your thoughts out to other people. Because I'm sure there's other people who may have the same mindset that you do and would love to hear what you have to say. But a lot of people just kind of hem and haw. They'll say, well, I'm not a writer, I just do this and that. It's like, no, if you can type and you have thoughts in your head that you can put on the computer screen and save, you're a writer, all right? Because that's what writing is. You may not be a paid journalist, but that doesn't mean you can't write. And I think that's another outlet people need to explore too. And that's like old school too. People were so used to multimedia, videos and stuff like that, and podcasts, but the written word, it stood the test of time, and I think more people should do that, and it's nice to see that more people have the opportunity to do that too,
Yeah, Substack, Medium, Hive blog, they're free. You just sign up for a page, and you can design it however you want. You don't have to mess with it at all. You can literally just start publishing today. It's really easy to embed a YouTube video. If you're a streamer, you literally just grab the YouTube link from the top of your browser, copy it, paste it into Substack. It'll embed it nice. You don't have to worry about codes or anything. They deal with all of that. Give it a title, give it a subtitle, which you don't even have to, but you can. Get as fancy as you want, get as basic as you want. And I love that idea. But again, just write. Just put your thoughts down and share that with the world. If you think that you've got something to say that you want other people to hear, don't be afraid that people aren't going to like it or nobody's going to read it. I started doing this really for myself so that I could view all of the news and try to pull it all in so that I could consume it easier and more effectively and more efficiently. And maybe other people like it too. And so I started sharing lists on Instagram and started sharing lists on Facebook and started sharing these graphics on YouTube, on Twitter, and look at how it snowballed and look at what it evolved into. And again, this is 2 years in, and I can't get enough. I mean, I'm energized more than ever before, and helping more people than ever before, and it's awesome.
If you and I was going to say too that you don't necessarily have to write for someone. You can write for yourself. I mean, it's very cathartic to get your thoughts out and onto another medium. I do that on occasion. I have a Substack too. I don't do it very often, but whenever I have something that weighs heavy on my mind, and I don't think it's worth. I think it needs more than just like a simple tweet or something like that. I'll put a little something out every once in a while. And do I expect people to read it? I don't really care if they read it or not. It's more for me. But if they do and they get something out of it, that's great too. All right.
That's to me what writing kind of is. It's not caring if anybody necessarily reads it. I got something I want to say. I did some research. I think that people would find this interesting, and even if they don't, I do, and that's why I want to share it. And anyone who does, great. So, let's get to some brain cleanse stuff. I love it.
It's a form of therapy. So
it is.
So you and I are around the same age. I won't say how old you are, but you're a little younger than me, which is fine. But we're in the ballpark. And we've come to find out about each other that we have now. We kind of have the same relationship. What really surprised me, I think the first time you and I ever spoke, we were talking to Reef, and I was talking about Mississippi where I grew up, and I was surprised that you guys both knew so much about Mississippi. What is your connection to Mississippi?
I've just been a lover of the Deep South for my whole life, and Southern culture in some ways. the friendliness as opposed to the New York roughness. I had my stepsister went to college in New Orleans when I was younger, but again, just always an affinity for the Bayou area, and that kind of life. The crawfish, of course, big fan of boiled crawfish and Cajun and what's the music, Zydeco type of music, and just that whole culture, down in Boudreaux, and you started doing Boudreaux.
Old Boudreaux down on the
children.
bayou. He gonna tell you a thing about them gators.
See, here we go, and we're off to the races with Boudreaux.
Old Boudreaux. Boudreaux be sipping on that shine. They had this thing every Christmas. We were talking about this a while back. Every Christmas, this local WLOX out of Biloxi, on Christmas Eve they'll play. It's a Cajun night before Christmas, and that's where I got that voice from. The old Boudreaux, he been cracking a whip on them gators on that skiff, and because instead of a sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, it was like these flatboats that they use in the swamps, and it had like 8 alligators pulling it or some shit like that, and then somehow they managed to get that shit up on top of the house. Oh my God, the South is so crazy. It is like, yeah, it's like you said. There's a friendliness to it, but then there's also, I don't know. It's just kind of like. Okay, so Yankees and Southerners, let's compare them. A Yankee will be more blunt with you, right? But they're kind of being a little more honest with you. You know what I mean? But it's just kind of blunt. It's not very friendly. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, there's also a warmth. Even though they're rough with you and they'll mock you and they'll be a little southern. There's that Southern hospitality, that extra friendly culture. They'll hug you at the end. Get over here, you fucker, type of guy,
Right. Yeah, because I was going to say that in the South, you have people who are like very friendly. I think they still like to this day. You'll be driving down the street or something, and somebody will be coming the other way, and they'll give you a wave, that kind of thing. You don't see that in the cities, but the downside to Southerners, from what I found growing up, is that they talk some shit behind your back. They're all friendly to you up to your face, but, behind your back, oh, did you hear about so-and-so? What? And, yeah, it's that kind of very gossipy, extremely gossipy. Because there's a lot of small towns, and, that kind of shit, it spreads around so quick because there's not that many people to spread it around to.
Rumors and dirty laundry, sure, for sure.
And
I grew up in a small town, even though I'm in the suburbs, but it was a small town.
Right, and and it's like it's not just the South. It's mostly when people hear rural areas. They think of the South, but there's rural areas up north. You go, go upstate here in New York, and you're gonna find some pretty country people, but they just don't talk like this. They have a different accent, but the mindset is still the same. They don't like city people, and unless you're bringing them business to their little small town. And even then, it's like they're tolerated at best. You're
still an outsider, sure, for sure.
Right? Yeah. Are you still a Saints fan?
I am a lifelong Saints fan. Even with the Bensons owning the team and all the nonsense that's happened, it's really. It's rooting for laundry at this point, unfortunately, and sadly, sports lost a lot of its meaning due to first children, then COVID, then news stuff, and focused on who owns these teams. And again, I hate being that guy, that bummer dude, that edgelordy woke dude, like that can't have any fun anywhere because of the billionaire that's profiting or that's owning and making sure that this whole thing is happening for his entertainment effectively, you know, and burning billions of dollars and using hundreds of millions of dollars of city resources that could go to homeless people and to actually help people. But instead it's funding a stadium for millionaires to go play football. And yes, it's entertaining and it brings in a lot for the economy and for, again, I get it. It's just, it's hard to see sometimes, especially when you see what we see, and we see the $813 billion that goes to military funding. And it's hard to have fun these days. I got to tell you, you know, it's a lot harder because you're inundated with alerts on your phone about what's happening all day long. You literally have to put it into sleep mode or turn off or disable notifications or have a set time, I think, sometimes in order to be able to really truly unplug from the whole matrix. It's really, they're following you everywhere, from Facebook to Twitter to all these different apps on your phone, and then you turn on the television and on the radio. I mean, you really, you know, you open your computer and you go online and you're getting served ads. It's really hard to get away from it unless you just completely unplug and do the touch grass thing that all the liberals like to talk about.
Yeah, well, when you're talking about like sports teams, and not just football, I mean, just all of them. I mean, back in the day, you know, maybe 30, 40 years ago, it was still somewhat a relatively new thing as far as like a national sport. You know, there was a lot of regional teams and stuff back in the 40s and 50s, and then you got into the 60s and television got involved. I think that's when things started going downhill for pro teams. It was or for pro sports was when television got involved. Yes, it was great that you were able to catch a game on TV and you didn't have to, you know, go to the stadium if you didn't live like close by or anything like that. You could just watch it on TV. But then it got to a point where, you know, if you did want to go see it in the stadium, you know, it's so fucked up because teams and players are making more money than ever before, and they're charging the fans, the people that actually provide them with, you know, revenue in the form of you know, asses in seats. I was looking. I think the Saints were playing the Jets, maybe last year before last. I was looking for seats, and like the cheapest ticket I found was like $50, and it was like, I think you had to stand outside the stadium, and you know.
Right, but that's not even, and that's just for the ticket. Then you got to pay to either park or take the train to get there. Then you got the food. They gouge you on the food, and they're getting you, and that's per seat, and you're not going to a game by yourself. So you're out at least a couple of $100 just to go to one game for one Sunday, and that's a lot for entertainment for a lot of people who are really struggling out there, and it's becoming more and more difficult. I mean, look at even the theme parks. Like, they opened that this theme park near me is an indoor kind of thing inside a mall, and like one of those Nickelodeon things. It's like $80 or $100 per kid to get in there. Plus, you got to pay for the adults, and you got a family of 5. You know, it's $600, $700, $800 with the food and and then you got to pay for the fast pass because you don't want to wait in line all day and blow half your day waiting in line. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, you're right. It's, you know, life is getting more expensive. Wages aren't necessarily keeping up, but. You asked about football, and yes, I am still a Saints fan. I do watch the scores, but with kids controlling the remote, I don't get to watch TV much on Sundays these days anymore. We're running around to birthday parties with the little kids, but even when we're home, they're watching YouTube during that time because they're home. But I check the scores and I try to stay up on Facebook and Twitter and see what's happening.
I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I never thought the Saints would win a Super Bowl, and when they did back in 2010, I was like, that's it for me. I can die happy. You know, I don't. Yeah. I haven't really kept up with. I mean, I do, but not nearly as much as I did when I was like hoping against hope that they'd actually do something. You know, and But now it's just like, it just seems like all the money, it's just tainted everything, you know, like the game, and it's just not the same.
The size of the contracts. I mean,
contracts. Yeah.
I remember I was in high school when Kirby Puckett signed like the biggest contract in the history of Major League Baseball. It was for $3 million for the year. And like, wow, that was like the biggest deal. And now that's like the minimum salary on a baseball team.
Yeah, because the salary caps
insane.
go up every year, so they're able to pay players more. And Deshaun Watson, he got traded from the Texans to Cleveland. The dude's getting like, I can't remember how long the contract. He's getting $230 million, all guaranteed. So that means he could just like, and if he breaks his leg or something, they're fucked. You know, they're out $230 million for one person. That's insane. And you know, you're talking about like the sports teams that you go to music concerts now. Like you go to a decent venue to go see somebody, you're paying like, you know, close to $100 easy, right? And like you said, that's not counting like if you want to get a beverage inside. We went to go see Depeche Mode over here in the Barclays Center. They were selling tall boys of like Bud Light, you know, just tall boys, $16. Yeah, it was pretty close. Yeah. $16. Yeah. For one can
and what's said is they should, for that, they should give you the ticket for nothing for all they're making on that. I mean, it's unreal. But then you got to pay the people that are pouring it and everything. And again, we're trying to get living wages for everybody, and it's a hard balance to, again, listen to these two old freaking crotchety dudes bitching about how expensive things are. But yeah, I mean, that's the reality for a lot of people out there, is that it's hard to live. And then you've got the network saying the economy's doing great and everything is wonderful, and it's a gaslight all day long. And people are wondering, like, am I broken because I'm not feeling the way that they're telling me that everybody's feeling? Like, and I think that's contributing to a lot of the depression that's out there, on top of the fact that they just aren't getting paid at the levels they should be. And while you know, profits have continued to rise and they've continued to keep wages down. Well, again, look at what's happening with oil and gas right now. 7% of our oil comes from Russia, and they've doubled the price on gas because the demand went up globally because of the sanctions they put on Russia. Yep. So they decided to jack that up a little further, squeeze a little bit more profit out of us, and the shareholders are going to do great, and the rest of us are holding the bag and paying for that profit. And it's what we fight against every day, and you help fight that fight. And again, everyone who stands with us and fights that fight, I give a lot of credit to, because it's really easy just to unplug and watch Netflix and watch Disney Plus and check out, because it's hard, and it can really be rough to see what people are doing and struggle that's out there. But people need help, and people, even if it's just asking someone, hey, how you doing? Like, sometimes that's all that matters. And they're like, you know what? Thank you. Nobody's really asked me in a while. It's pretty unbelievable.
I used to
and
work
it feels good. Again, I do that all day.
I used to work at a job placement service, and you know, you're talking about like people working like, say, concession stands and stuff like that at these venues for like concerts and sporting events and stuff like that. We were doing job fairs to get people hired for the Barclays Center over here in Brooklyn, and these folks were not getting paid that much. I mean, at the time they were getting they were starting at minimum wage, maybe a little bit more if you had some experience, but you know, you juxtapose that to like how much that they're charging inside for all this stuff, for beverages, you know, for like paraphernalia and the tickets and all that stuff, and it's just, you know, that's just a microcosm of what's going on in the country, right? I mean, we're lucky here in New York that we got the $15 an hour minimum wage, but the wage gentrification is like driven all the poor people out of New York, and it's just nothing but a rich person's playground. $15 an hour, it might as well be $7.25 like it was before. Well, it was actually, I think it was 9, and then they went up to 11, then they went up to 13, then the next year they went up to 15. I mean, it's better. It's a lot better, but it still isn't enough.
No, it's not even close, unfortunately. And again, that they're not providing health care, they're not providing any kind of child care, and they're not providing elder care also in a lot of cases. Now, unless you are totally rich or totally poor, the system really screws you, and we see that on a daily basis. People who live above the poverty line just barely, that struggle because they don't qualify for services, but they are, they're really struggling because of the cost of everything. And now again, cost of gas, cost of food has gone up again because of the truckers and the chip shortage, and the fact that with the pandemic, people also realized they don't want to work for this crappy $600 a week and kill themselves. I mean, just and it's funny, the more physical the work I find, the lower the wage and the lower the appreciation in most cases from the bosses and society. I mean, the grocery workers, the truck drivers, God almighty, I love the truck drivers. And I've been advocating for truckers since long before there was a trucker strike in Canada. You can go back and look at the first live stream I was on last summer with Joe Firestone. I was on an orange bird like this. It was summertime look. And I was saying, we need to organize the truckers, because if the trucks shut down in 3 days, we would get everything we wanted, because the trucks are what make everything go in this country. And it's truckers that are going to do that. And some truckers got really mad at me about that. Said, you're going to starve people. That you're going to this. Well, we don't have to do that. We don't have to. And
the thing is,
you can just give everybody health care.
Truckers make a lot of money too. That's the thing. It's like you'd be hard pressed to get truckers to do that. Although it's a great idea, you would be hard pressed to do that because they do get paid a lot. Some of them are getting paid like 6 figures.
The owners do, but not the drivers. Look, the drivers.
The drivers do
some
too.
of the drivers, look, they live in over the road truckers that really live a life effectively where it's 5-6 days a week. They're living in a sleeper cab, driving cross country. They make good money. They sure do, and they deserve it. They earn it. That's hard work, and they're driving 8, 9, 10 hours a day, and sometimes they're doing their own loads and unloads, and that's rough.
Yeah, I'm not saying they don't deserve it. I'm just saying though that they do. They are the lifeblood of this country. I mean, they are the blood that goes through the roads are the veins, and they're the blood carrying the oxygen. You know what I mean? And if they shut down, you could write they'll write a blank check to you to the people that you're choking up.
One of the things Reef and I covered almost weekly. I mean, we were covering Striketober weekly. And we were covering Australia's trucker strikes in August. That was the very first episode we did of How Do We Miss That? Before it even had a show, we were talking about Australia's trucker strikes and teacher strikes and bus driver strikes and all the things that happened throughout the month of October and November, and right up through the Kellogg strike and the Nabisco workers strike. And we were really behind all of these workers and trying to amplify their voices and their stories and talk about the 84-hour work weeks that they're requiring, 7-day, 16-hour shifts for some of these factory workers, backbreaking for $19, $18 an hour. I mean, the lack of appreciation from management for that. I mean, they would never do that themselves, nor would they really expect anybody they knew to do it. But they were so disconnected from the people that actually worked for them, that they're responsible for. It made me so angry. I got to tell you, that's part of what inspired me to do the show, was that I didn't see enough people talking from a worker's perspective. Again, RBN does a great job of that, and there are some independents out there, but I just had something to say and said, hey, can Reef come be goofy on stream and smoke some weed while I do some stories, and it just kind of works. And love that dude, and love doing what we're doing, and sharing those stories. And amplifying the voiceless in a lot of cases, and the people that are trying to be suppressed. And, and the workers, the people who actually make it go. Oh, I wanted to mention also, by the way, you did an awesome job at covering the Canada trucker strike. You were sharing videos on the regular. You found the Canadian streamers that were actually covering it from an honest perspective, that weren't doing it from a corporate perspective. A lot of big shout outs to Warren on that. Everybody follow Warren for that and give him a big thank you. But also not only truckers, train operators. And the train operators were actually talking about organizing and striking recently. And that actually got shut down by one of the courts that said that because of how essential they are, they're not allowed to strike. Wait, what? What? That's really what happened. That really happened.
Oh, what are they going to do? What if they strike? Are they going to arrest them? Then they'll still be technically striking. They still won't be working. I mean, that's the stupidest shit I've ever heard.
I believe the number was 190. It was 190,000 workers. And who owns the rails? Warren Buffett. Yeah.
You know, I tell you, those the Canadian truckers. That I just stumbled upon that. There were a lot of independent people out there just filming stuff, and there were so many people up there, shooting live video of what was really going on and just totally shattering the propaganda that was being told about them, and then they would go after these streamers. They quote unquote arrest them. Basically, they just take them. They pick them up and then they take them away from the scene and like drop them off somewhere else and tell them to stay away from there. So it's highly illegal.
Yeah,
shit.
they're trying to stop the message, which it was narrative control, and that's what we're trying to do, is counter that narrative control on a daily basis.
It's because they knew they weren't breaking the law. That's why they didn't take him to jail. That's why they would take him off the scene and then drop him somewhere else. I'm amazed. I don't know what's going to happen with them. I don't know if there's going to be lawsuits filed over that. I hope so, because they really do.
I mean, it was the narrative that it was the narrative that it was run by Nazis, and that there was a huge element when there were certainly people there that were waving flags, but there were only it was selected groups. There were also violence, and there was certain things happening to people throughout the streets. I'm not going to deny anything that actually did happen, and they were terrible, tragic things, but they were isolated incidents, and most of this protest was peaceful. And most of the people that were there to make a statement to the government and to never have any intent to do anything other than stay there until they lifted the mandate, which they did.
Yeah. I tell you, the only violence I saw, and I watched a lot of those live streams. No more. There must have been I don't know, at least 10 people that were doing live streams and were getting thousands and thousands of views. That guy, Viva Free. He's a Canadian lawyer, right? And he was just going around just talking to people. Dude was getting 20,000 viewers at a time on his stream because they knew he was telling he wasn't telling the truth. He was getting people on video who were telling the truth. And the only violence that I saw was the cop, the RCMP that was on the horse that knocked over the old lady. It was the cops doing the violence. There was I didn't see anybody else do it. Maybe there was stuff off camera. Who knows? I don't know. But I saw that and I was like, okay.
Yeah, it was in town. It was in town after the protests were over for the night at a restaurant. People were fighting over something, or who knows. Again, they were all, they weren't leaving, but they weren't, they were all kind of staying around town, I guess, after the day's protests were over. Again, everybody's got to eat and supply or whatever, but I know there was a steady group of people that were there and occupied around their capital for, God, it was weeks, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was at least a couple of weeks.
It was wild.
And they once they kicked out all the truckers, the next day there were streamers in there, and the cops were hassling them, saying, that unless you live down here, you couldn't be there. And you couldn't just walk on the streets of Ottawa in downtown Ottawa just walking. They were like they wanted to see passports, they wanted to see IDs and all this stuff, and if you didn't live around there, they were threatening to arrest you. And I'm like, the fuck? I mean, that's just a small example of the bigger picture of what's been going on. Not just COVID. You know, like I said, with Russiagate before that, and this Russian-Ukraine business afterwards. You know,
don't forget January 6th too.
January 6th too. That's why people like you are very important, that are spreading this news all over the place from all these journalists that otherwise may not even be known at all, you know? So
they're being suppressed. They're actually being buried actively by the corporate media, and because they're challenging the administration, because they're getting people to think and question, where they're kind of going along with whatever they're told because life is relatively easy for them, you know, somewhat. You know, at least for a large portion, for some people, it's easier to just believe that the government is actually looking out for your best interests, and that the news media is not completely narrative managing for the government, and that they're not in bed together and completely paid off by big business and big military and big pharma and all. You know, it's all interconnected and designed to keep you pacified so they can run off with the, again, red versus blue, so they run off with the green. I've been saying that forever, and I'm not the only person. I definitely picked that up from people smarter than me.
And that's why, like, people like me who were once in the bubble, you know, and others who were once in the bubble but got out, we have to get more people out of these bubbles of propaganda and bullshit that, you know, like you and I have been around for a while. We've seen all kinds of shit being fed to us from these entities, and, you know, and it isn't new. This isn't, I mean, it's just a newer kind with the newer technology, but we've seen this pretty much all our lives. We may not have recognized it when we were younger, but that shit was going on then too, you know? So, well,
they're also more flagrant about it now, because there is this intermingling more than ever before of former corporate executives that are now involved at high levels of government, where they have former coworkers and friends that are still in high positions of power at these tech companies, and the friendliness between these two entities is not good for anyone else. Let's put it that way. In some ways it might be, but in other ways, for privacy's sake, certainly not. Again, for protecting yourself from trolls and you know, again, you have legal means, but it's very difficult to prove or to figure out who's doing what. For example, we know that one of the people in this stream here has been impersonated on other streams and said all kinds of stuff. Somebody said it as them with that alt ID, and there's nothing that can be done about that, and no repercussions, and you can't figure out who it was or when it happened. It was, and now it's there, and the person who saw that feels a certain way because they think it was Warren that did it. If it was Warren, or if it was me, maybe it was me that did it. So they think that it was the person they saw, and it really wasn't. It was somebody else that was impersonating them. And it's happened to several people that we know specifically, which is pretty interesting and you know, maybe we know someone in our universe that's doing something about that, but it's really hard today to be public and online. There's so much you have to do to protect yourself, and they know, and again, technology companies and government know so much. And the more that they're married, and as much as the tech companies know about your online behavior and who you're friends with, and the stuff that Facebook, for example, tries to serve you, it's dangerous. It
is.
I try to stay off Facebook as much as possible. Personally, you know, I use it for indie left and to share news stories, but and I stay connected to the people in my family and some of the business friends. I don't post very often. I'm mostly tagged in pictures of my kids by my family. And I'll comment or like somebody else's post, but it's not I'm not really putting much of my own ideas and thoughts out there. Definitely to Facebook, to that algorithm to consume. Hey, you want to consume something, Facebook? Look at this article from Popular Information. Look at this Free Julian Assange thing. You know, this is what I want Facebook to see, because they're not sharing it with anybody else.
Yeah, and if you do share it, you get slapped with a label on there that's something that says this is misinformation or something like that. I mean, I'm with you. I used to be on Facebook a lot, and you know, at first it was you know, sharing pictures and stuff like that. But then as the political season, particularly like around the time when Bernie ran in 2016, I started becoming more vocal politically on there. And I come to find out that my family and friends are either just libertarians who want to make every road privatized, or they were like these shit libs that were just singing the praises of people like Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton. And I was like, I'm not getting to these people. I'm just kind of spitting into the wind, it seems like. And I got off there. But I'm with you. I have my War Deer Entertainment page on there that, you know, I post these like live streams on there and stuff. But other than that, I don't really mess with it anymore because I don't want the hassle, you know. And Twitter's starting to get that way.
Toxicity. I mean, they talk about Twitter being toxic, but I've found Facebook and specifically, you know, the last year, Facebook groups to get incredibly toxic, and you see a lot of like kind of ganging up on one person, kind of groupthink. Literally, they're Facebook groups, so you see groupthink happening, and people leaving and splitting groups. And the other problem that I see is that none of these groups and none of these ideas seem to be growing, and that to me indicates a suppression, because everybody wants healthcare, everybody wants affordable housing, everybody wants childcare for their children, everybody wants a living wage, everybody wants paid vacation, what all the rest of the civilized world has. And when you have people that are talking about that and talking about why we're not getting that, not getting seen and not being heard, versus the stuff that's being paid for, sponsored by, brought to you by Pfizer and Moderna, thank you so much, and then brought to you by General Dynamics and Raytheon, thank you so much. What's happening?
Yeah.
You know, and now they figured out where the eyeballs are. They've moved from television and cable networks and corporate networks, and now they're moving towards the platform. So now they've bought their way into YouTube, and they're buying their way into sponsored Twitter posts, and they're buying their way into Facebook posts and Facebook Live and Instagram Lives, and they're infecting your news feed everywhere. It's really rough. So that's why, again, independent platforms like Rockfin, critical to what we're trying to do here and to get this message out.
Yeah, definitely. And we have to diversify. We have to get on as many of these platforms. It's, you know, content creators at least, in order to avoid the whack-a-mole, you know, because like inevitably one of those is going to get hit. So you got to have a backup somewhere else if you want to continue to do what you want to do.
I mean, we already know the Telegram got compromised pretty early on, even though they actually are doing the least amount of censorship of any messaging platform when it comes to Russia, Ukraine, for example. But they had RT censored and blocked in the United States, and no other platform really. I guess YouTube voluntarily did it, but I believe that it was done by legal restriction due to sanctions that they took it off of Telegram. Maybe that's because of where Telegram is located. And again, yeah, like you said, platform whack-a-mole. So what we're talking about is independent streaming to your own website, where you can have your own studio software, and they would literally have to shut you down at the ISP level and shut down your website host in order to stop you from being seen and heard. And we're getting very close to that point right now. Luckily, our streaming platform actually allows for that capability of embedding streams. Like I said earlier, we're actually embedding the stream right now on independentleft.news, and that is completely independent of any platform. So if we scheduled the stream and we told people to go watch it there and we set up a little integrated chat, you literally don't need any of these platforms to get people there, as long as you can build yourself an audience. And that's where it's going, because corporate is controlling all this, and they don't want that narrative, and they don't want this messaging and anything questioning what the advertisers are trying to sell, sadly. So That's why we're doing this, and we're fighting every day.
And despite differences that we have amongst each our little groups here, we still have to stick together, and we have to keep fighting these larger, more powerful groups. Because if we don't, they're just going to win. I know it's like herding cats, but we just have to do it, and hopefully people will get their shit
an
together.
Interesting. Call-in, for example, is one of these new apps that popped up, and it's like a call-in show. Katie Halper and Aaron Mate did a follow-up, and what they're doing is streamers are, after they're doing their live stream, they're doing a call-in so that whoever was watching live, plus people that are on the app, can then call in and ask about stuff on the show and ask other topics. It's interesting. It's almost like a radio show where a queue develops, and you can see how many people are in queue. They're only going to get a certain number of people, and luckily I was able to get in early enough that I got in to talk to Aaron and Katie, and I asked him about independent networks specifically, and that was pretty much his thing. Is like he's been doing this for a while, and there's so much drama and infighting among people on the left, and everybody has their little fiefdoms, and everybody has their egos, and everybody wants to be recognized. And of course, I think that's important, but he seemed to be very down on whether everyone could potentially come together. And I'm like, well, look, some of us are already kind of doing that, but of course we've all put our egos aside to do that, and none of us have a platform, an audience so large that we really had that level of ego. It's one of the reasons why I picked the people that I chose to invite originally into this, and why we add the channels that we add. It's exactly about no ego. It's about helping everyone together as a collective. Some would say that that's a pretty communist way of thinking. Ooh, the bad C word. Or a socialist way of thinking. Ooh, the bad S word.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know. Labels. I don't know. I know. Reef would say labels are bad.
Labels are bad. Okay. I don't know who told you, but I have a huge ego, so I totally fooled all of y'all.
Well, no, you have a huge. Okay, yes, ego. We'll say ego.
Whoa, Mister. What
hey
the
now,
hell?
Hey now, what?
On that note, we're gonna. Looks like we 2 hours, man. We've been doing this for 2 hours.
Get out. See
10 o'clock.
Because I don't shut up. I know.
Listen, I'm going to tell you.
I do a lot of talking.
Today, no, actually, it was perfect because I woke up this morning. I wasn't feeling very well, and I just kind of got progressively worse throughout the day, and so I had to do. I was doing Misty's show, and it was great. I managed to do okay, and I'm so glad that you carried most of the load tonight, because my energy level, and I usually have me a little sip of my my little country champagne and the tall boy, and but just wasn't up to it tonight. But I said, the show must go on, and I appreciate you for all your insights and your knowledge and the hard work that you do. So thank you for that. But
yeah, it's my pleasure.
Yeah. So as Cletus said in this movie, it's almost pass out time. So what we're going to do now is you're going to tell us all the places people can find you, what you got coming up in the near future. I know you got a bunch of stuff, so just roll it on out, brother.
All right. Well, everything you can find, all my links are at independentleft.media. That's my link tree. You can go to the news site, which is independentleft.news. You can go to the Substack, which is leftist.today, and you see those. IndieLeft.news also goes to the main website. You can go to the Discord, which is independentleft.gg. All of these, again, are in our link tree. Our Rockfin page, and we're, again, on Twitch and all the social media platforms. We're on Odyssey, and if you want to hook us up, we do have a Patreon. I never really push it at all, but I do want to mention that we do have it. If anybody does want to throw me a little bit of coffee money, I am fueled on coffee and some cannabis once in a while, or more than once in a while. Yeah. So anybody wants to hook me up, and really that money really goes towards supporting other streamers, because I spend more than I make every month on Patreon, but as well as on premium memberships with other platforms that aren't on Patreon. IndieNews.network is where all of the channels for the Indie News Network, where all of the 18, 19, 20 creators that are currently collaborating and working together on our network can be found at that link tree, IndieNews.network. There is also a second link tree right at the top to find all of the members. That is a new link tree that we put out just yesterday. And that is all of the members' link trees and who they are and where you can find them. If they don't have a link tree, I link to their Instagram or their Twitter profile, so you can learn a little bit about who they are, follow them, get engaged with them. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, everywhere at IND Left News. You see that down in the left corner there, the doobly-doo down in the description too. And then get Indie News on Twitter for INN, because INN couldn't find Indie News Network, was unavailable. So get Indie News on Twitter. It's indienews.network on Instagram. But we're not that active. We're really active here on YouTube and on Twitter. That's where the network really performs. And we're going to be growing. We've got more volunteers, more people coming in. Anyone who wants to help, please reach out to me on any of these platforms. We need a lot of help. We need channel managers. So if you're good at Instagram and you want to help INN or Indie Left on Instagram, great. We need your help. If you're good at Twitter, if you can do Facebook, if you're good at Telegram, I mean, really, we need one for every single platform. We need multiple people because not every one person can do it all the time. So we got to diversify. We need to bring in a huge team. And there's tons of people that are fans and friends. And we've already brought in 25, 30 people outside of the streamers to do this. So again, I'm so grateful for everyone, for you to have me on, for your friendship, for all the connections that we've made together. And we've had so much fun. Again, without fun people that add some levity and some lightness to this really gets boring and depressing and very hard. And just greatly appreciate you having fun and cutting loose with us and having this outlet and this show to do that with. And being around all day, to in Twitter and wherever we communicate, because we seem to be talking all day long. Discords and Telegram, and again, this is it. We use all these platforms to make sure that no one platform can shut us down. That's the other reason for diversification. They're trying to eliminate us and to stop us from communicating and connecting and amplifying and supporting and collaborating. And the only way to do that is to be everywhere. So that's why we're doing what we do. So thank you to everyone who's watching. Thank you to Warren. And again, I will, I'll see you guys everywhere. Oh, by the way, Sabby Sab's next Friday night. I'll be doing Sabby Sab show as a patron. You can do a Patreon. You can do a show with Sabby. So I'm going to do one next Friday.
How do we miss that? Sunday nights, what time?
Oh yeah. How do we miss that? Sunday nights, 10 o'clock. YouTube on all the channels. Rockfin. Again, rockfin.com/IND Left News. Follow for free. Sign up for a premium membership. Really appreciate that. And all the supporters on all of these streamers on the platform are fantastic. Tara Reid, linktr.ee/Tara Reid. If you can hook her up with anything, she could really use your help and support right now and love. Just send her a message on Twitter, even saying hi. Love to Tara Reid for sure. Noli D, all the members of INN, thank you, love you. Have a great night, everybody. We're going to talk again soon, Warren. This won't be my last time here.
That was hopefully. That was a great Oscar-winning speech. I appreciate that. And to all our anybody that's going to be volunteering, we're going to pay you in imaginary chicken wings. So just imagine they're delicious. Before we go,
don't slap me.
No, there'll be no beatings here unless you pay extra. I mean, what happened? So just before you go, we'll shout out everybody in the chat. Mystery, thank you so much, Gamer. Jimmy Sinclair, appreciate you, and Reef, Ed Heller,
Reefer.
Who else we got up here?
Bacon.
Nightbot, our drunk.
Volcano Based Solutions.
That's right. Choosy,
Drunk Nightbot.
Aram.
This dumbass show. I love your Nightbot shit. It's so funny. It cracks me up every time I see it.
Nightbot's a bit of a drinker.
This dumbass show's running on Indie News Network, right?
Nightbot's has given up on life and has decided to hit the bottle. Propaganda Live.
Nightbot is definitely angry.
Oh yeah, I mean, in a fun way. Oh, and Dolores too. Thank you for all you do for sharing and everything.
Yes, thank you, Dolores.
Thanks everybody, and as always, Indy, you want to say it?
Wash your ass.
Make
you.
it clean.
Thank you very much.
Clean anus. No, seriously, wash your ass.